Hey gang, welcome back to Match Grade Podcast. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to Randy Watt. He's the owner and president of SRW Incorporated and Warrior Creed. He's also the co-owner of the Power of Awareness Institute. It's a training company based on the book, The Power of Awareness. I kind of looked through it a little bit. Have to admit, I haven't had a chance to read it, but it looks like it's got some good stuff. Randy's background is really cool. This guy's been into some good stuff. He's a retired colonel in the Army National Guard from Utah. He's also the former commanding officer of the 19th Special Forces Group, where he was the recipient of 4 Bronze Star medals. He's also retired as the chief of police for Ogden PD. He spent 36 years total with the Ogden PD, but the last 4 he was their chief. During his time with the Ogden PD, he also got 2 Medals of Valor. So, and to top it off, this guy also has 2 master's degrees and a bachelor's degree. So, Randy, welcome to the podcast. So, question number 1, Randy. How would Randy Watt define leadership in 1 minute?
So that consists of 3 parts.
Okay.
Ability, which means that you have received the requisite training and experience as a leader. Influence, which means you've connected with your people and you have a relationship with them, that they understand both your position, who you are, and what you stand for. And to accomplish the mission means that you recognize that the mission is most important. In the Army, mission first, troops always, that's the thing. But the goal is, the ultimate end is, you must accomplish the mission.
Cool. I like it. All right. Number 2. What accomplishment are you most proud of in your career?
Well, in my career, I'd have to say, starting as an enlisted soldier, as a private, and retiring as a colonel commanding a Special Forces group. There are only 7 Special Forces groups in the Army, the Green Berets. There are only 7 groups.
Okay.
5 are active duty and 2 are National Guard. So it's a group consists of about 2,500 Green Berets. So it's a very small pool. To get to be selected, to have a stellar career enough and move through the requisite training, education, and experience, the different levels of command, because to be a group commander, you have to command a battalion, you have to have commanded a company, you have to have commanded an ODA. So to be able to accomplish that, and that to me was a big deal. To start as a private and retire as a full colonel commanding a group, that's quite a deal.
That is one heck of an accomplishment. When I started, doing some background on you, beyond what we talked about when we first met. Actually, I want to segue into that, because I didn't really cover it in the intro. You and I were introduced at Dave Spalding's last class, his swan song.
That's correct.
He kind of looked at me and goes, his nickname, the nickname he gave me.
I do.
And he called me over, and I'm like, what's going on? I didn't know what he was doing. He's like, you're standing there, and he goes, you got to meet this guy. And I'm like, well, I guess if Spalding says so, I guess there must be something behind it. And, it was funny. As I got our interaction for the rest of the week, I was like, yeah, Randy is a cool dude. I got to get to know this guy.
Off really well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Personalities are such, and our skills, and that we have plenty of respect for each other. And it was a good week. It was a really good week.
Oh, my God, it was so much fun. It was good to be there for his last class, his last official one. So let's do question number 3, and we'll add some of the rest of the stuff as we go here.
Sure.
If you had just one thing to offer to those who are searching for their first training course, what would you suggest they look for? What would it be?
And that's a tough question, because when I talk to people, I tell them you need to vet the instructor and the program. Right? You need to ensure that the person that you're turning to give you potentially life-saving training. Let's face it, the only reason they come to you or me is because there's something in their mind that says, look, I'd like to be able to protect myself with a firearm. And so looking at, there are a couple of things. This is going to sound kind of funny, but does your instructor have training liability insurance?
Yeah.
Right? Things happen on ranges, and even at the best ranges with the best instructors, things happen. It's rare with the best instructors. It's a little less rare, right?
Exactly.
It's a little lesser. You can be the best instructor in the world and have the best range safety officers working your line, but that 2-second event that you cannot stop, and you have a situation. So and people's lives are financially put in jeopardy. So do they have that? Too many instructors, too many people are allowed to instruct. Too many facilities allow people to train on their facilities, instructors, without having instructor liability insurance. So that's one thing to say. Second part of that vetting is, does your instructor have credibility? And then the other thing I tell people is, look, if the instructor's any good, he'll let you come and observe a class, see their mannerisms, see their safety. How does that class feel to you? Does it feel like it'd be a good fit? And then make a decision and go from there. And don't be afraid to be brand new at this sport, at this game, at this style and type of training.
Yeah. I get a lot of people that come to me and they're like, what should I practice for my basic class? Practice keeping the gun in the box and then bring it to class.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
We'll take it from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's good. Vetting, having insurance, because we know it's not a big expense, but it's an expense, and it means you're taking yourself seriously.
Exactly. And if you are a professional instructor, then you have the systems and processes necessary to be successful, and that's one of them.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So we're going to jump around a little bit on topics. Go back to, I don't know how long ago it was, but the transition from military to civilian life. How difficult was it? I know quite a few vets myself. I run into more every day, which is awesome. I like to learn from other people's experiences. But what kind of advice would you give for vets who are having a hard time going through that transitional period?
So keep in mind, I was a National Guard guy my whole career, so I jumped in and out on a regular basis. But I also had lots of active duty guys. The National Guard has a certain percentage of people who are active duty, and so on. Plus, I served active duty tours. Went to the war 4 times, serving, commanding and leading counterterrorism and counterinsurgency units.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so my first bit of advice is recognize that it's not the world you just came from. The military has a lot of things going for it. One of the things it has going for it is it's a very structured environment.
Right.
And it generally speaking, unless you're in the Marines, generally speaking, you get very, very good equipment. You get very, very good training. You might not get the exact training you want. You might not get the exact equipment you want, but you get equipped and prepared to do the job. You have a command structure. You have a leadership structure. You have daily accountability, responsibility. You're trusted. Even the fire team leader, who's an E4 corporal, is trusted in his role because we rely on each other. So recognize that environment does not exist in the civilian realm.
Yeah.
You're leaving it behind, and you're getting into uncertainty. You're going back into the civilian world, which has a great deal of problems with accountability, responsibility, maturity. You're going to struggle with people's attitudes and a variety of different things. Just accept that and be accountable for yourself. Don't give other people control of your happiness, of your self-worth, self-esteem, any of that. That belongs to you. Don't give other people control of it.
Okay.
A lesson I learned a long time ago was don't get offended. You and I are friends. I'm not worried about situations, but it doesn't matter, right? You can't offend me,
Right.
because I don't give you that much power. If you offend me, I'm giving you control over how I think and feel. It isn't happening. there's no one, I don't mean this in a negative way, but there's no one in my life I care enough about, except my wife, that I would be offended by what they say, and she won't offend me. Right? So, so don't be offended. And that's a good rule of life, period.
Well, especially nowadays, yeah. Don't
Oh, yeah.
don't give up that control and don't get offended so easily. You know, that's your choice. It's
Right.
not them.
Right. That's right. You control that.
Cool. All right. Now, this was interesting. This came up. Actually, this one actually came from Ed. We were talking about what questions to ask certain instructors. And and this one's going to be interesting because this is going to be a question I'm going to ask everybody I talk to, every instructor, anybody I talk to that's, in our world. If you could take one piece of modern tech back to the start of your career, and it would work, all the physics, everything will work, but you can take it back there and it's going to work. What would it be?
So that was a tough one, when I was reviewing that, because, I've lived through a period in life and seen tremendous change, right?
Right.
Technology, the growth in technology. So, quick funny story. So as a young Special Forces captain, early 90s, I was sent to a school back at Fort Bragg to learn to use the brand new GPS system that was being fielded to the Army. And at that time, only the Army had it, only the military had it. Civilians could not get it, right? And so there was this box, we called it the plugger. It was literally about this big. And at that time, there were only 7 satellites in the sky. And they had been put up there. There were only 7 for this system. And so you had to have at least 3 to be able to get any kind. You had to be able to tie into at least 3 to get any type of triangulation that would give you an accurate reading.
Okay.
If you had 4, 5, or 6, then you could get it down to being within 10 meters. Started out at, you're in the same grid square, and then it went to 100 meters, then it went to 50 meters, then it went to 10 meters. You could get down to 10 meters. If you could get an 8-digit grid reading on the plugger, you could get down to 10 meters, as I recall. And we were sitting in the class, and it was a contractor. I can't remember who it was, whether it was Raytheon or one of those, that was teaching about it. And he said, yeah, don't get too wrapped up in this because it won't be too long. You'll have it in a wristwatch. And we all laughed at him. Right? We all laughed at him. Yeah, it may have been 30-something years ago, but guess what?
Or in a box you can put in your pocket, right?
Yeah, where you're giving up ultimate control. So when I looked at this question, and the key was career, and I had 2. I had military and I had police.
Right.
If I could take one thing back, I think it would be the EOTech or the aim point red dot sight for my carbines.
Okay.
When I started out in CT work, Army Special Forces, we were using the CAR 15. I don't know if you remember the old iron sight days, but there were for guys like us who are very highly trained in the use of the CAR 15, a non-select fire short version of the AR-15 with a strange flash suppressor out on the end and a collapsible stock. But using iron sights, there were 4 methods of aiming. Right, there was slow aimed fire, rapid aimed fire, aimed and flash sight picture, and aimed quick kill. But it was all built around proximity and then the speed of using the sight, and it was always built around that peep sight in that front. Man, our lethality in the field, going back to my first days, our lethality in CT, if we'd had those sights back then, just be outstanding. But by the way, I don't know if you remember the Sante raid, 1972, where Special Forces led by Bull Simon went into North Vietnam to the Sante prison camp, and the prisoners have been moved. Yeah. They used the CAR 15, but literally taped to the top of the carry handle was a red dot sight, and it was known as a single point. I had one back in the early 70s. You couldn't look through it. It was occluded. You had to have binocular vision, but it would place a red dot out in front of you And there was literally tape with electrician's tape to the carry handle. That's how new the concept was. But in 1972, they were using them.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Randy, I'm a recent convert to the red dot system. So everything I've shot, I cut my teeth on everything with iron sights. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a little older than you, so I go back a little longer that way.
No, that was good. That was good. That was a good answer. That was really cool. I'm glad I got you to think a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
So let's pull the next one out here. Everyone has, or they should have, their reason
Mhm.
why they get up in the morning, why they do what they do, what drives them. What's yours? What's your why?
So that was an interesting thing to think of. I have a very strong faith and a commitment to my faith, and I've reached a point, Dave, in my life where every day is a gift. And if I'm going to be accountable for this day, then I need to use it for the best that I can do and be. And so I'm a big believer in mission statements. I've been, that my whole career in the military and in SWAT. We used mission statements and all those mission planning concepts in what we did. I've been successful in my life. I've been able to accomplish many things, and I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities and a lot of experiences on which to judge that. So at this point in my life, my mission statement is that Randy Watt will at all times and during all opportunities help others to succeed. And so whether it's in firearms training, whether it's in, and I still do quite a bit of law enforcement and military special unit training for them, for different units, including foreign units. Um, my goal is to take God has granted me intellect, experience, skill sets, and so on. My way of paying him back is to share with others. And that's what motivates me to train so many civilians, so many people. It's what motivated me as I became an instructor at Gunsight and now a range master at Gunsight. I've run my own company for years and years. And it's that motivates me is the taxpayer built me, whether it was the local taxpayer or the national taxpayers built me. They created the opportunities for me to become what I am. So this is my way of paying back.
There you go. Yeah, you're paying the taxpayers their investment back, right?
Yeah, that's right. Remember those guys on the job that you stop and they say, I pay your salary. Well, that little percentage of their taxes back, they're getting back from me this way. They
There you
didn't get
go.
it back. They didn't get it back through no ticket.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had to learn it another way.
Yeah, that's another way.
Yeah. So, your toughest lesson that you had to learn, what was it? What was so impactful about that lesson?
So, probably, the greatest lesson for me was that I'm not infallible. Um, I can make mistakes. And am I willing to own up to those mistakes? Am I willing to take full accountability, rectify and correct what I can, uh, or and not be the kind of person to attempt to blame it on others or rationalize it away. I need to own it. The military was, I spent my whole career in special forces, and that's out at the cutting edge of things. And I made the mistake one time of when I was first headed to war the first time of telling as we were having our pre-deployment gathering of families as we were about to load the plane and leave that I was going to bring all their we don't have women in units in our units in those days. That happened after I left, but that I was going to bring all their men home.
Uh,
Uh, that was a huge mistake.
Okay.
I did bring them home, but not all of them were healthy and well. Some were dead. Um, and so, uh, you have to own it. I did have uh, one spouse throw that in my face, and you have to own it.
Yeah.
You're not infallible, and so pick it up, drive on, take accountability for yourself, fix whatever needs to be fixed. Um, and you cannot help but be successful. Those who will rationalize and those who will dissemble and those who will apportion blame, in the end, they're not successful people.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a tough promise to make, and I can understand wanting to reassure people on it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it has to happen one way or the other, right?
Well, and I lost officers as a chief of police.
Yeah.
And well, not just as chief, I lost one. I had one officer murdered, but over the course of 36 years with the police department, we lost officers. And I was a command officer, either a division commander or assistant chief or chief, for about 16 of those 36 years.
Yeah.
And the job is what it is.
Yeah. There's risk to everything.
It's absolutely, well, there's risks walking off your porch. So, and
Yeah, really.
yeah, one of my favorites. I had someone tell me today that I had an acquaintance say that life was unfair, and I just shake my head. Whoever told you life was supposed to be fair? Whoever thought, if you think that life is fair or supposed to be fair, you better get an azimuth check going, because you're in for a lot of disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a big surprise coming your way pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
So, what does the future look like for Randy Watt? What else is there left? Is there anything left you want to accomplish, or a milestone you want to hit?
Oh, well, so I've been a martial artist all my life. I wrestled up through my first 2 years of college. Been athletic all my life. Well, about a year and a half ago, so I would have been 64. I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I just want to take that in whatever years I've got left. I want to take that as far as I can. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. But I belong to a really good club, a really good trainer, world-class trainer who creates a culture where an old guy like me can come in and not worry about getting beat up or busted up or
That's good.
anything like that, right?
Yeah.
As far as goals or accomplishments of any note, worthiness, no, I've done what I've wanted to do. I've lived a great life. If God doesn't let me wake up in the morning, I'm fine. I'm happy.
I don't know, going through your CV there, 4 Bronze Star medals. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Then what? 2 Valor medals from the
From the
department on the
department,
civilian
and
side. Yeah.
one of those, right, one of those Bronze Stars for Valor. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I've got nothing left to prove, Dave.
You've done
Which is
enough.
why I enjoy. This is why I enjoy. I can go anywhere. I can, let these 25-year-old kids at the jiu-jitsu studio, work me over. I've got nothing left to prove.
That's right. I'm just there to learn.
It takes a long time to learn humility, and it is a great thing when you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's like a peace of mind, because
It
you
is.
don't, it's not a contest anymore with that other guy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that's, yeah. What have we got left to prove?
That's right. I've got a bunch of friends of mine that do BJJ, and they always joke about, well, it's time to go fold clothing with humans in them.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And the first time you said it, I'm like, huh? Oh, I know what you're doing. Okay. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is there's a group of us that are gun sight range masters that are all in our 60s, and we've all started it. It's kind of fun. So when we go down to the ranch to train there at gun site, we have mats and we'll roll with each other. And
Okay.
it's here's these old dudes who've got more miles on them than any human should probably have.
Yeah. And they're still
And
flopping around on the
and we're
ground.
still
So
flopping around on the
what's my
mats.
excuse, right?
That's right.
Let's see what's left. We got a couple more left. I'm going to throw a bonus one at you, Randy. You're going to like it.
Okay. All right.
So here's the thing. Was there an experience you had while learning to shoot that you use to remind yourself when you work with newer shooters?
So, I grew up in the home of a World War II veteran, who grew up he grew up through the Great Depression,
Okay.
in Kansas, Augusta, Kansas, just east of Wichita. So we always had, and we lived in a rural environment, lived on farms while he worked in the aviation industry, but we lived on farms and we had farm chores and, those kinds of things. So we always had firearms. And so I developed a love, for firearms. But I didn't really get into handguns until I became a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I sucked with handguns. So I started in law enforcement, and we were using revolvers, and my first duty weapon was a Colt Trooper Mark III. They were
Wow.
357 Magnum, but they required us to carry 158 grain lead ball plus P. That's what we were required to use. We weren't allowed to use 357 Magnum. It's too powerful.
I know.
Anyway,
Shake
and
your head.
I struggled. I struggled to shoot it well.
Okay.
I always passed qualification, and I passed, in towards the top of the department in skills, but I struggled to perform well with it. And the reason I did is that I had developed, without realizing, I had developed the classic aversion to the gun going off, which is the anticipatory flinch, that goes with it. And no matter how hard, and by the way, that is a standard physiological response to psychological phenomenon, right?
Yep.
The shock that you don't really notice, but your body notices, your neurological system notices, the noise, even with hearing protection, the noise. And then the other facet that I find with a lot of shooters is they've got something in their hand that is deadly. And a lot of them that come to my classes have been told all their lives that guns are bad, guns kill people. So, and I did not initially enjoy shooting. And then I had an instructor second year in who said, "Why are you not enjoying this? If you would learn to enjoy this, you'd be better at it." Well, how do I enjoy it? And he said, and without even realizing, we know today that, aspects of how the brain works was triggering, triggering certain chemical responses in the brain creates pleasure, and not enjoying something creates, the opposite. And so he kind of he took the time to start me out, and we started working on the kinds of things you and I do now today, that weren't really done. Training as a training subject when I started in law enforcement was really terrible. They yelled at you, "Quit jerking the trigger," or, my favorite thing, "Quit jerking the trigger." Maybe I'm not jerking the trigger. How do you know if I'm jerking the trigger? Well, it was a standard answer. If your bullets aren't going where they're supposed to go, then you must be jerking the trigger.
Right.
Right. So that's what the state of training was in 1979 when I hired on the police department, and for the, into 1980. But he began walking me through the building blocks of how to be accurate.
Hmm.
And once I started getting positive feedback, once I could start patting myself on the back a bit, I could start enjoying this. And once I started enjoying this, it took off.
There you
It
go.
absolutely took off. And you look where I am today and what I do today. But I started out where a lot of people start, and that is that I sucked at shooting.
So here's a quick aside. When I did the instructor course with Tom Givens.
Okay.
He wanted us to give a little bit of an intro and brag a little bit. And I'm just like, okay, I've done some stuff. I've been to Blackwater, been to SIG a bunch of times. I've done some things. I've
Right.
had fun.
Right.
Some of the other history stuff I've been into, you and I chatted a little bit. And right as he took a sip of coffee, I didn't plan this, it just happened. And right as he took a sip of coffee, I said, I'm here because I want to learn where I suck so I can suck less. And
Yeah.
he spits his coffee out over his table.
Yeah.
And Lynn is turning red, laughing so hard. and he got up and he just kind of like, okay, go sit down.
So here's a funny aside. So I've reached a point in life now where I can start checking off the bucket list of trainers I never had the chance to train with. And
Okay.
there are 2 or 3 more I've got to do. But I have known of Tom Givens forever, but I have never trained with him. And I got into TACCon. So I'm going to TACCon in April.
You're going to be a tech on?
I'm going to be at TACCon. Are you going to be there?
We're going to be there. Matt and I are going to be
This
there.
is my first experience with TACCon, and I have no clue how it's organized. I have no, right? And this thing about signing up for classes. So all this stuff happens, and I'm getting emails from Lynn, and classes are full, and this, and I'm going, wait a minute, so I emailed and said, look, I'm sorry, I forgot to get into classes. Do you recommend what do you do? And I don't know if it was initially it was Lynn or Tom that responded. They said, look, just pick a class you like, go, because on that day, sometimes people drop out and there's slots and so on and so forth. The next morning, I get an email from Tom and he says, hey, Randy, I took the opportunity to put you in this class. Awesome. Love the guy already. So
you'll have to send me your list of
some,
what you're doing.
Yeah, he got me into some good classes. So and I try, and this is a key point that I try to tell all the instructors that I work with, because I run instructor schools of my own and stuff, and do instructor development, is look, at least once a year, but more if possible, go somewhere as a student. Go be the gray man, hang out, be a student. I've done that with Dave Spalding. I've done that with Lee Weems and John Hearn. I did their thing in Georgia last year, which I really loved, the cognitive pistol.
Yeah, those
really
are good guys.
loved it. I'm doing this. I've been fortunate enough that over the years, because my agency and the Army were willing to send me places, I got to go train with a lot of the named people, but there are still some left that I didn't get to, and I'm trying to clean that up over the next few years.
Now, maybe I can get you to come out and see this Dave Jenkins guy and see what
I'd love to.
One of his trips.
Love to. I'll have to take a look at your schedule and drop out.
I'm going to be kind of close to you. Ed Monk's bringing me down to his place later on this year.
Yeah. See, Ed's another one that I'm eventually going to hit. In fact, I'm hoping to. I think one of the things I'm dropping into at TACCon, I think, is Ed's teaching at TACCon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I saw his name on something anyway. It might be one, it might not, but he's another one that. And I will tell you, and I know I'm running off the mouth here, but there are instructors. With all the instructors I've been to over the years, there are instructors that I will go back to as often as I can, and there are instructors I will never go train with again. So you find those too.
Me too. Yep. We run across it all the time.
Yep.
So a gentleman that, I don't know if you had any prior contact with him, but he was at Spalding's course too. He's been a mentor of mine, as I kind of mentioned when Dave gave me the floor for a minute after he harassed me. John Holshin.
Yes. John and I had crossed paths at first group.
Okay.
Because the 19th group, the National Guard group that I belong to, and first group, we're aligned to the same area. So we do joint
Okay.
exercises. And when at that class, John reminded me of a couple of exercises we'd worked in Thailand, and we were both there and so on. And then I remembered crossing paths with him on those things. And I
Yeah.
had studied some of John's, I hate to call them writings, but I'd studied some of his information things about shooting and about how the brain works and different things. And over the years, particularly the last 3, 4 years. And
Mhm.
so to have a chance to shoot with him, he just sent me his schedule. I'm going to try to be dropping into one of his classes in the later part of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to be by the time this airs, I think the date will be set. Well, date set, but I'm going to be. He's coming to me later on this year to do his whatever that. I forgot what he's calling it, the cognitive shooting type class.
Yes. Let me know
Using
what the date
bureaus.
is on that.
I will.
My year's pretty busy, but maybe I could figure
You never
something out.
know. Yeah, we'll take care if you come out
I
here.
could,
Just like you
I
told me.
could, two birds with one stone there. I could get you and John. I could be a student to both you and John.
Oh, good Lord, that'll be an evening. All right. So actually, I was gonna tell you something. So you're talking about a tight-knit community on the GB side with the Green Berets.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of four that I can remember of note that I've met. It's you and John,
Right.
Mikey Green from Green Ops,
Yes,
and Ralph Blue. I don't know if you know him. He's down in the
I do
Texas
not.
area. He works
I
for
do not.
Glock, and he was up here a while ago. We hit it off pretty good, and the funny thing is I mentioned Mike's name to Ralph, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Mike. All that, we go back way." Like, yeah, it is a very tight knit small community.
It's a very, very small community. There's another guy you might take a look at if you get a chance. His name is Matt Little. He goes by Graybeard Actual.
I
So
know.
the company is Graybeard Actual. Matt Little was a Chicago SWAT cop and a 20th Special Forces group, the other National Guard group,
Okay.
with repeat combat experience. And as a Chicago SWAT guy, he's got a lot of experience. Very good. I believe he's a Grand Master level. Very, very, very good shooter.
Oh, that means he doesn't do anything
Good
else but to
trainer.
shoot.
Yeah, he's if you get a chance, he's another one to look up.
Okay. All right. So, last couple questions here. Tell us something interesting or surprising about yourself that people might not know.
Yeah, I'm Canadian by birth, and I grew up in Canada.
Okay.
I was 20 years old when I came to the U.S., specifically to Utah to go to school. So my father, as I mentioned, was born and raised in Augusta, Kansas, and he's one of the 36,000 Americans who fought for the Canadian Armed Forces in World War II. And so
Okay.
he established friendships with Canadians, and when he couldn't find work in the United States, he was a bomber pilot. He started out as a Spitfire pilot, and then he became a bomber pilot. And he was shot down over Germany. He spent 2.5 years in German prison camp, escaped 3 times, got away on his third escape,
Good for
was
him.
repatriated. And then when he came back to the U.S., there were a lot of unemployed pilots, and he was having a hard time finding a job. But one of
Wow.
his buddies from the RCAF had sent him a telegram. That was the days of telegrams. Said, "I'm starting a Bush company. Come fly for me." And so he did. And so all of us, he had five. He and my mom had 5 children, and we were all raised in different parts of Canada. But we were dual citizens because we were born to U.S. parents.
Okay.
And so Canada didn't have anything to offer at the time that I finished junior college up there, community college. And so I came down here, and the rest is history.
There
But
you
I
go.
still hold a great deal of loyalty and have a lot of friends and have family still in Canada.
So this was something that was suggested to ask, but I didn't because I wasn't sure, it's like I got to fill Randy out a little bit. I got to see what he is, but I remembered you were pretty easygoing about stuff. And then when I saw it, there was some chatter online about it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to ask him. So what the chatter I see, And what I've picked up on is something about mustaches and styles.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So, so that's from the Wikipedia page.
There's a few other things that I found it on too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but mostly that's from the Wikipedia page. So
Yeah.
where that started was, so there's a case. So one of my battlefield captures cost me one of my Americans killed and 7 wounded, and we killed 11 Al Qaeda that day in Afghanistan. 27 July of 2002 in Afghanistan, in a village called Ayub Hale. And one Al Qaeda combatant survived. He threw the grenade that killed Chris Spear, Special Forces Operations Detachment Delta. That grenade did. And as soon as he threw it, he was immediately engaged by another Delta Force member. We were doing a joint operation at the time on a target hit on an Al Qaeda base. And so he was struck twice, but he survived. The kid survived. A very, very famous case, Omar Khadr, who was Canadian. He was Yemeni. His father was the number 4 man in Al Qaeda, but he was 15 at the time. So his father,
Wow.
14 is the age of a jihadi.
Okay.
And so his father had sent him to Afghanistan to one of the Al Qaeda camps when he was 14. When we drove everybody over into Pakistan in October, November of 2001, he went over into Pakistan, but then as Al Qaeda cells drifted back in order to kill Americans in Afghanistan, following the spring thaw in March, April timeframe, he came over. So he was alive. So he ended up in Guantanamo, and a number of us were going to testify. So, including agency folk, including Delta Force, including me and a couple of the guys. But we were able, because we were all still serving, we were able to get, the judge was able to say that we could testify in our pseudonyms, and our faces could not be photographed, nor could the courtroom artists draw them, nor could they draw the nameplate on our uniform during the trial.
Okay.
And so, years had gone by, literally a lot of years had gone by, and this was a political hot potato between Canada and the US over the status of this kid. So he's in his mid-20s when we go to trial. He's in his mid-20s. So the anti-forces against what we didn't like it that we were being kept secret. And so a journalist, a Muslim journalist in Canada, did some research, and in order to out me, created that Wikipedia page.
Interesting.
And he put a bunch of stuff on it, identifying me as the ground force commander during the Omar Khadr capture. And so that's how the Wikipedia page got started. DOJ, the prosecutions, military tribunal prosecutions, contacted Wikipedia. They got it taken down. It was up again in 3 days. And when they contacted them again, they said, look, it's a public domain. We can't take it down. We're not taking it down again. Well, over time, I look at it maybe once every couple of years, see what's on there. I've never put a single thing on it. Most of my friends who are close enough to me to put factual stuff on there have never put anything on there. But one of my friends, who's a joker, put on there, because I've always had a mustache.
Okay.
I've literally had the mustache since the 8th grade, right? So I've always had so he jokingly put on there that I'm a mustache aficionado and that I like certain styles. Well, then other people kind of picked it up and started running with it. And that's where that came from. It has nothing to do with me. It's just people friends having a little bit of fun with that Wikipedia page. And then
Oh, that's funny.
from there it got picked up.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's funny. I started reading it. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're going through there, and I will also tell you, there's stuff on there that is just not true. It was put on there in an attempt to attack me, my character. I think it says somewhere in there that I put myself in for my own awards. No, you can't. That doesn't happen in the
I
military.
did see that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's
I thought that
there's
was
all
kind of
kinds of.
weird.
Yeah, I don't think I've looked at that Wikipedia page in 5 years. It means zero to me.
Right.
Anybody that knows me knows the stuff there. Um, it was started by someone who literally wanted to get my name out there in the hopes that I would be tracked down and killed. And so be it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Give it a try, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, that's all I had. Is there anything else you want to throw out there while we're
No, no,
sitting here
no.
chatting?
Thank you for the opportunity and keep doing what you do.
Well,
Our country and our citizens need it, and they need you.
well, you did your job. Now I'm just going to try and do a little bit of mine, I guess.
You keep after it.
So
You're young enough that you've got a lot of years left in this game. I don't. So
I'm going to work at it.
you keep working at it because you do great.
Yeah. Well, Randy,
And
thank you
and
for
Edward,
joining us.
very nice to meet you. I haven't seen you yet, other than this fake picture you put up. But
He just gave you a giant thumbs up.
and I will see you sometime in New York.
Yeah. Well, Randy, thank you for joining me for this. I was
Yeah.
glad that we put it together and we got the schedule all linked up. I know that you and I will be trading messages and in touch with each other quite a bit for a while here.
And hopefully before too long, we'll shoot together again.
I would welcome the opportunity to get on the range with you again. It was fun.
All right, brother. You be
Um,
safe.
All right, you too. We'll see you
Take
soon.
care. Bye.